Right stand, I'm Anand Narsimhan. First up, viewers, this is a need and matter for concern for Bharat. Bharat fours are at work. One on the western side, the other one now, who suddenly turned unfriendly on the eastern side, seem to be engaging together. The neighborhood is in turmoil. Bangladesh, which was born out of the 1971 Liberation War, witnessed the worst political and civil disruption in 2024, leading to Sheikh Hasina's ouster and her having to flee Dhaka and seek refuge in New Delhi. Now, radical elements have been running amok in the neighborhood with ongoing atrocities against Hindus, free run to extremist groups like the Jamaat-e-Islami, the Jamaatul Mujahideen Bangladesh, and also the Ansarullah Bangla team under Mohammad Yunus has been witnessed. Escalating his anti-Bharat posture, his latest adventurism, where Bangladesh's chief advisor Mohammad Yunus gifted the art of triumph to Pakistan's chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee, General Sahir Shamshad Mirza, the senior-most Pak military leader to visit Bangladesh since the upheaval. Now, this Art of Triumph document has done the rounds ever since this entire turmoil and upheaval happened. It was not doing the rounds before that. Now, intel sources say that Mohammad Yunus presented the artwork, which reportedly depicts a controversial map that includes all of Bharat's northeast in the greater Bangladesh map. And this was given not to a civilian entity, but to Pakistan's top general, a move that could be deliberate against Bharat. Intel sources further allege that the act carries layered symbolic meaning, pointing to a covert alignment between Dhaka's interim regime and Rawalpindi's military establishment. Intel sources further suggest that this was intended to signal Dhaka's quiet endorsement of Pakistan's long-standing anti-Bharat narrative at a time when both nations are accused of recalibrating their regional messaging under foreign influence. Bangladesh has clearly forgotten its lessons of 1971, not just Pakistan. It is rolling out a red carpet to Bharat's enemy Zakir Naik too. Zakir Naik, who was reportedly recently tested HIV positive, has a nationwide tour being scheduled for him all across Bangladesh in November. And this comes a little over a year after he went on a month-long state visit to Pakistan. Zakir Naik features in Bharat's most wanted list on charges of money laundering, hate speech and inciting violence. So what's the intent here? What's the intent here? What's the underlying messaging? And how should Bharat read into what's happening in the neighborhood? Dr. Jnanendra Burman, author and assistant professor, Cotton University, joining us from Guwahati. Saddam Hussain, higher council member of the Gano Adhikar Parishad, joining us this evening. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, author, political commentator, scientist, with us, and Lieutenant General KJS Dhinal, former GOC 15 Corps, who's also been looking at the developments very closely in the region. My namaste and Jai Hind to everybody. We're also waiting for Ambassador Veena Sikri to join us. But Saddam Hussain, may I first ask you, how would you see these developments and what's happening in Bangladesh?
Thank you for having me. You have mentioned already the ongoing situation and the latest gift by Bangladesh's illegitimate and unconstitutional government to the Pakistani authorities. I think the name of the book should be renamed not as Art of Triumph. This should be Art of Tragedy or Art of Turmoil, because in that sense, the situation of Bangladesh will be better reflected. I think this is a intentional beat of Professor Yunus to destabilize the regional situation and just for his personal gain and appeasing the Islamic militants in Bangladesh. This is his main goal. So the sort of gifting a new map, and which is ultimately a sort of threat to the greater stability or sovereignty of our great friend India. So I think this is not only against the interest of India, this is also against the interest of Bangladesh also. This is not only anti-Indian rhetoric, this is also anti-Bangladesh rhetoric, because for the development of our people, we need greater cooperation with India, and energy cooperation, connectivity, trade communication. But when you destabilize important corridors, when you destabilize the situations of our partners, in that sense that there are risks of diplomatic isolation, there are risks of economic isolation. So the current regime, that is a puppet government actually, they are not actually the representative of Bangladesh, because there is no political mandate, no constitutional mandate, no legal mandate. So actually, that this is just is a power tactics to appeasing the Islamic militant in Bangladesh, just playing anti-Indian card, so that he can, he can cover his own domestic failure. So this is just a strategy
Is there a
of the current
political? Is
illegitimate
there
government.
also a political angle to it with Bangladesh, given the fact that elections have been announced? It could happen as early as February 2026. Is there a calibration to try and get somebody that is not Awami League in power?
Oh, there is no chance of actual election. Actually, the government is actually trying to have a selection to, they will select someone to govern Bangladesh. This is their main goal, because they already banned the largest political party in Bangladesh. They de-enfranchise the voters of Bangladesh Awami League. So there is no actual election is coming. This is you can call it a constitutional farce. This is just a eyewash of the Yunus government actually. So by initiating this sort of measures, the ultimate goal, that the democratic struggle of Bangladesh, overlooking this is their main agenda.
Ambassador Veena Sikri is also with us. Ambassador, namaste. We have our other panelists in Saddam Hussain, who's part of the Gano Adhikar Parishad. Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon is with us. Dr. Anand Ranganathan and Professor Jnanendra Burman also with us. But Ambassador, may I ask you, how would you read this situation? How is Bharat looking, or how should Bharat look at what is happening in Bangladesh, the messaging that is emanating from there, the opening of ports or Karachi to Chittagong, and also direct flights from Dhaka to Karachi? Scheduled to start again soon?
Well, I think the first thing we have to understand about what is happening in Bangladesh is that last year it was not a spontaneous students' uprising. It was a very deliberate regime change operation, and of course it was done by through Pakistan, by external powers, and working with the Jamaat-e-Islami in Bangladesh. So today, for the last year and more, 15 months, it has been the Jamaat-e-Islami which has been in power behind the scenes in Bangladesh. They are guiding Mohammed Yunus in everything he does. Mohammed Yunus is just actually more or less a facade, a front for the Jamaat-e-Islami. And I think that the purpose of the Jamaat-e-Islami, we must understand, is to reverse what happened in 1971. The losing forces in 1971, whether it was Jamaat-e-Islami, the Razakar, Pakistan, USA, they are today think they have won, and they're trying to reverse the situation. We saw how in the July Charter they did not even want to mention 1971, and I think with the bare mention it come in. So with Pakistan coming in a big way for the last 15 months, there's been a complete sea change in the situation in Bangladesh, and all the restrictions which were there in Pakistan for 50 years, 53 years have been absolutely reversed. And we've seen these, higher and higher level officers, and this person who has been gifted the art of triumph is the second most senior most officer in the Pakistan army. So they are trying their best to make Bangladesh as their strategic depth. Just what they have failed in Afghanistan, they're now trying to do it in Bangladesh. And because of that, they are rushing in one brigadier after another, embedding the brigadiers with the Bangladesh army, extensive training for Bangladesh officers by the Pakistan army, extensive training for Bangladesh officers by the American army as well. Air Force, air exercises jointly between America and Bangladesh, great activity at the border between Bangladesh and Myanmar, in the name of the humanitarian corridor. So it is a very anti-Indian stance that Mohammed Yunus and his cohorts, guided by Pakistan, had been taking. On every issue, they have not shown the least interest in having a friendly relation with India. India has shown a great deal of strategic restraint with Bangladesh. We have, expressed the interest right from day one to work with the interim administration led by Mohammed Yunus, to continue the cooperation that we've had with Bangladesh for such a long time, which yielded them, 6.5% growth a year. Every year they had that growth. And they were actually going to graduate out of the LDC group. But now all that's been reversed because the economy is in a big mess. But it doesn't bother the Jamaat-e-Islami, because the poorer the people are, the more they control those people. So, it's very difficult. And what they have been saying on the Northeast has been particularly worrisome. Not only this book, this is just a stylized map of Bangladesh trying to show as much of the Northeast as belonging to Bangladesh. But Mohammed Yunus himself in China has spoken about the Northeast and said that it actually belongs
Interestingly,
to Bangladesh. Yeah.
Yeah, interestingly, Ambassador, a nation that cannot manage its own four subas, and another nation which has gone from growth to negative growth and inflation and further penury. How are these two nations going to even come together when they're separated by such a huge, powerful entity that is Bharat? General Dhilan, why are we sitting and watching? Is that our weakness or strategic restraint, or how is it that we allowed something like this to happen in Bangladesh? And it's been nearly a year that Sheikh Hasina has is at the national capital. The Awami League stands banned. What is Bharat going to do? Why are we okay with some nations and some people trying to even covet sovereign Bharatiya territory? General Sahab.
Anand, good evening and good evening to the fellow panelists and your viewers. First of all, we must understand the geostrategic and geopolitical relevance of Bangladesh. Bangladesh is not landlocked, Bangladesh is India-locked. Bangladesh has 4,000 kilometers long borders with India from three sides and just about 580 kilometers of sea coast. With our Vizag, that is Visakhapatnam naval base, with our Andaman Nicobar in the Bay of Bengal. So Bangladesh is India-locked, literally. Now coming to the point as to why Bangladesh is doing this. After 1971, the people who are considered the villains and who are considered pro-Pakistani, Jamaat-e-Islami and the West has very clearly brought that out. Now they're trying to get back together. And now we see internationally what's happening. There's a posturing happening in Pakistan. There's a posturing happening in Bangladesh against India. And like you said, why we are watching? No, we are not watching. The game is at play. But Maldives was also being talked about in a similar manner a few months ago when the government change happened there. Now you see Maldives has also come back. Is coming back rather. Afghanistan was being talked about like this 3 years ago. Afghanistan is coming back. So our international diplomacy is very strong, very powerful. And diplomacy works on 3-4 pillars. One is your economic strength, second is your political stability and political will, and third is your military might. These 3 pillars, if a nation is strong, the diplomacy works very well. And we are the strongest in these 3 pillars and many more within this subcontinent. And Bangladesh is just about posturing because they, as was brought out by Saddam, Bangladesh, today's regime does not have any legal, political, locus standing. They are a nominated regime. So before the next election, they are wanting to, exert themselves. And what is the best way to exert in an Islamic nation is to talk about religion, to talk about ill about other religions, and rally people around the Islam word or the religion. And this is a copybook style of Pakistan. Whenever the things are not going hunky-dory in the country, they start doing this. And Bangladesh, Yunus is picking up the same SOP from Pakistan.
Right.
So nothing to worry. It's just a temporary phase. There is nothing which can happen to Northeast. They can bring out any number of whatever their triumph and whatever that thing is. The terrain, the layout does not support Bangladesh in any way, military, diplomacy, or economically. Bangladesh has to depend on India. And Andaman Nicobar is a big thing in the Bay of Bengal. And St. Martin's Island and the Pasni Port in Pakistan are the 2 things which America is looking for. And these are the 2 things which are making these 2 nations posture against India.
Correct. But neither Pasni
so we
nor...
need to be very clear on these things. We are a military might in the region. And these small little pinpricks will not bother us, and they should not bother us, but our diplomacy is at play and it will turn things around.
Pasni is impossibility. It's a pipe dream that's been proven by experts again. St. Martin also at the moment seems like a pipe dream. But when it comes to Northeast, there is another issue. The Northeast, the level of infiltration and the level of that's coming in, which is diluting the demographics and altering and creating internal security issues for Bharat, becomes a big challenge. Just quickly getting on to bringing in the Northeast picture before we bring in Professor Burman and also Professor Ranganathan or Dr. Ranganathan. The Northeast is a gate to Southeast Asia for all the countries involved in the conspiracy against Bharat. The Northeast region is one of the nation's richest resource zones, as this is holding around 1.1 billion tons of coal, mainly in Assam and Meghalaya. Misrepresenting the area on maps can be a low-cost way to test nationalist reactions or revive separatist sentiment. This is what sources have told CNN News 18. Adding that portraying the Northeast as part of another country through maps, statements or academic art is a soft act of war. Mohammad Yunus wants to convey through Pakistan that Bharat's borders are negotiable and any external forces can be roped in to negotiate. Now, according to recent surveys, the reserves include 158 million ton of crude oil, 23 billion cubic meters of natural gas. The Northeast also has estimated 65 gigawatt of untapped hydropower potential. The Northeast has over 1,400 million tons of limestone and emerging deposits of rare earths, graphite, vanadium, lithium and cobalt. Now, these resources make the northeast of Bharat a strategic, economic and geopolitical hotspot. Bharat's northeast also shares borders with China, Myanmar, Bangladesh and Bhutan. The same route connects directly to ASEAN through the Kaladan and the trilateral highway corridors. The West and China are aware that influence over this region will reshape the future of continental trade and energy routes as it will link the Bay of Bengal to the South China Sea. The area holds large oil, gas, coal and hydropower reserves and forms part of the Brahmaputra-Meghna water system. Professor Burman?
Yes, you have rightly pointed out. And the development in Bangladesh, it's a matter of concern for us. Because, as you know, demographic invasion, infiltration from Bangladesh, it has already changed our demography. Demography has already been changed in many districts. The indigenous population here, they have lost their political, cultural rights. So it is in this context that development in Bangladesh is really a matter of concern for us because the radical Islamist groups they are getting support from Pakistan. So Pakistan has become active here, and other Islamic radical group like Al Qaeda. And there was case, a few years back when these Islamist terrorist groups they entered into Assam. So these things, because we have open border of 262 kilometers, so these terrorists may enter Assam as infiltration taking place in Assam. It has changed Assam's demography. In just 2-3 decades ago, in those villages where indigenous population was 100%, now you will find 100% immigrant Muslim population. If you allow me to present some data, I have this data from villages. There is a village, Koroibari in Gwalpara district. This is 1970s voter list. And here you have names. If you go through the names, you will find 100% indigenous local names. Population and 2000 same village, same district, 2025 voter list, and you will not find a single indigenous people here. So this is the case of demographic invasion in Assam. So it is in end some internal. You have mentioned about the external factors, but internal things disturbing. Why? Because some elements, some radical Islamist groups, they have been active here, and they may have their connections. Some people, they were captured, and when interrogated, it was found that they have their connection with Bangladesh terror militant groups. So this is really concerning. And but we have been, our approach, has been dovish approach. India's approach has been very brotherly, friendly approach. But they have been hostile. Bangladesh is becoming what Hamas is to Israel. So, but we have been dovish. So we have to take steps. Otherwise, in those areas where demography has already been changed, in Thupri, Borpeta, Gwalpara, Nagaon, they are now, these immigrant Muslims are now deciding factor. They are majority now. And these groups demanded that this Lower Assam part where Muslims are majority should be a separate autonomous state. So this concerns us. So of course now government has taken steps. Some 63 lakhs bighas of land have been encroached by the immigrant Muslims. And of course now our chief minister, he has taken steps. Some 2 lakhs bighas of land have been freed. He is taking some strong steps. But then concern remains because of this demographic change in Assam taking place and the connectivity of these radical groups operating in Assam and their connection with Bangladesh, that concerns us. So I think we should strong steps, strong message should be given to Bangladesh. Bangladesh should understand their future lies with India, not with Pakistan.
Right, but that's not the current leadership, that's not how it thinks, and there is a bunch of radicals, there are a bunch of people who've been kept on the sidelines who seem to feel that it's their time in the spotlight and they're flexing muscle. But moment radicalism, radical thought and this intent, flexes muscle, there will be a counter force that will come into play. Is it testing everybody's patience by the time this counterforce comes into play, Dr. Ranganathan? Is Pasni and Saint Martin the geopolitical interest, whereas religion is being and radicalism is being used as the opiate to try and befuddle and fool the masses? Is that how this entire equation will it be? Is it fair to look at it that way? Dr. Ranganathan, thank you for your patience. Yes, Ambassador Sikri, coming to you after Dr. Ranganathan. Ji.
Good evening, Anand, and good evening to my fellow panelists, all of whom are experts. So it's been a lovely discussion and I've learned so much. I'll just put a couple of my thoughts purely as a layman. A couple of weeks ago, I would have said that Bangladesh is fast on its route to becoming the next Pakistan, and Pakistan is fast on its route to becoming the next Afghanistan. But I have since what has happened between Pakistan and Afghanistan revised my estimate. So I'll just stick to the first, which is that Bangladesh is fast going to become another Pakistan. I mean, it is an irreversible process. We've seen it time and time again. The behavior of the chief of Bangladesh, who is a closet jihadi, by the way, it's not just that he's managing jihadi, he is a closet jihadi. There's no other way of describing him. All points to the fact that he is absolutely comfortable with it. Now, this is what we as Indians have to understand. And again, my views are purely as a layman. These people are comfortable in that skin which is exclusivist, supremacist, ultra-religious. I take you back to the Iran of the late 70s when Khomeini came. So, when the entire nation is comfortable in that skin, the neighboring country, i.e. us, proudly secular or whatever you may call it, have to urgently and with emergency reassess our relationship. Otherwise, we'll be falling into an abyss. Now, how do we do that? A, and are we doing that? B, the answer to B is, I'm sorry, no. Because still, as the general pointed out, we have around about approximately 5,000 kilometers of a border with Bangladesh. About 600 kilometers of it is still not fenced. And the tragedy is that whatever you may say our relations might be, of course, it's a geopolitical importance and yes, we are safe till now. But have we forgotten the ace that Bangladesh has up its sleeve? Of course, the ace has nothing to do with military acumen or defense preparedness. The ace is demography. When you have 5,000 kilometers of border with a state that is now an enemy state, formally not, but informally yes, that now wants to pander to this basic fundamentalist view that Pakistanis have always had and dreamt of. The fact of the matter is, how prepared are we? And we are not. And this is where I come to the fact of our lackadaisical attitude. In 2011 census, and we still haven't had the latest census that we should have had in 2021. We are possibly going to have it next year or year after, whatever. By the time, I think it'll be too late for us to assess what's happening. But in 2011 census, 9 districts of India that were bordering Bangladesh, 2011 I'm talking about, were already Muslim majority. That is cumulatively, if you were to total the kilometer length of the border of those Muslim majority Indian districts, it is 600 kilometers. And I'm talking of 15 years ago, Anand. Yeah. Can you imagine what the situation is right now? The Bangladeshis, the Islamists and the jihadis out there know this. This is their weapon. And we can't do anything about it unless we take it as by the scruff of its neck, which Himanta Da is taking. But is Mamata Di taking? No, the answer is no. She's quite happy with the infiltration that is happening at a gargantuan scale. I mean, you have to worry when Congress leaders, Shashi Tharoor says there might be 20 million illegal Bangladeshis that have escaped into the Indian woodwork, insinuating that they're termites. When Congress leaders are saying that this is a problem that needs to be tackled, what is the government doing? So as an Indian, I am worried that Bangladesh might not, of course, match up to us in terms of defense preparedness or arms or armaments or whatever you may have it, economy, whatever. But this ace up its sleeve is going to devastate us.
Well, yeah, the demographic alteration, the penetration of illegals across Bharat is huge. So every state has to do, and that's a larger policy. But Saddam Hussein, quickly before I bring in Ambassador Sikri here, do you agree that the current lot Bangladeshis or the people are okay with this thought process and with UNIS? That's why there is no resistance, there is no uprising against this kind of unelected placement of somebody who's giving a free run for radicals.
Right now, Bangladesh is not only a safe haven of terrorism, it is actually a jihadist hotbed. It is actually a jihadist launchpad right now in Bangladesh. You said before that Zakir Naik, who is banned in India, in also some other countries, who glorified Osama bin Laden, who inspired holy artisan attack in Bangladesh. He was invited in Bangladesh. Also, a terrorist. Well-known terrorist Hafiz Saeed's associates are visiting Bangladesh regularly, going to the border portions. So this is actually the tendency of the present government. They are making our shared border in a tinderbox actually. But I do believe the people of Bangladesh believes in cooperation with the Indian people, Indian government. They believe in handshakes, not hate maps that have been reflected in the art of so-called art of triumph. So people actually right now the current government is not representing the people of Bangladesh because there is no mandate actually.
But the people have also not rejected it outright. The public has also not shown the kind of anger and furor it should if this is a forced entity, and especially the Bangladesh army seems to be backing and allowing this to pass.
I think if the people can decide, they will decide in a better way. And right now, there is no democratic situation in Bangladesh. People cannot have their voices. And there are huge cases of gross human rights violations, minority aggressions. So I think right now, the situation in Bangladesh, it is right now, it is actually a fascist state. There is your only freedom is to supporting the government. This is the current situation of Bangladesh right now. So I think people will resist ultimately and the people will claim their victory.
But it also shows that the army is in play and the army is okay working with the current system and allowing the system to do what it is, because the army is also not forced free and fair elections. There has not been any resistance to the Awami League being banned and this kind of vitriol that's, a Muhammad Yunus can do that only when there is a certain amount of entities or forces within Bangladesh who are allowing this to perpetrate or to perpetuate. But Ambassador Sikri, we have limited time, so I just want to also bring out the last 1 year has also seen a lot of 1.5 years, or let's say 24 months, has seen a lot of issues within the Northeast creep up. Be it the Meiteis and the Cookies, be it what's happening between Bharat and Bangladesh in this corridor, what's happening with the Nagas. There just seems to be an escalation in the amount of rift and fracas and issues that seem to be happening all across the Northeast. The Meiteis Cookies, weapon smuggling in the Myanmar-Moreh route, the Assam-Myanmar border tension, Assam-Bangladesh corridor tension. Then, of course, there is that spillover with the Arakan army and the Chakmas. Then the Arunachal-China border, Tripura, Lower Assam. There's just trouble in every area of that Northeast. So somebody is very actively targeting and keeping this place on a boil. Ambassador Sikri.
Well, I think one must understand that what people talk about Sheikh Hasina, the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, the one issue on which she fully supported India was India's security red lines in the Northeast. And on this issue, compared to the time when her predecessor, Begum Khalida Zia, was the Prime Minister, which is when I was as High Commissioner, it was exactly what it is like today. All these issues were boiling up at that time too, because Khalida Zia's government, with the support of Pakistan, was giving dynamic support to the Indian insurgent groups. But for the last 15 years, the Northeast had been peaceful because there was no support from Bangladesh at all. And Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was completely, had frozen out all the insurgent group representatives, the militants, etc. And the Northeast prospered. They enjoyed a rate of growth they haven't seen. They even forgot what insurgency was like. But suddenly in the last 1 year, 15 months, everything is rushing back. It is a very dangerous situation. But I'd like to say one point about what you were asking about what the people of Bangladesh, and I agree with what Mr. Hussain said, that the people of Bangladesh do not support this government. There is complete unhappiness. In fact, why should somebody want a government which had such a strong rate of growth under Sheikh Hasina and then coming back to a completely demolished economy? Why should anybody be happy about it? But there is no democracy at all, and the support of the West is with the Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus. So they are not allowing any of the news that is happening in Bangladesh, including the attacks on the minorities, which are continuing to this day.
Yeah.
Which are there's now an attack on ISKCON. They want to ban ISKCON. They want to the rapes, the lynchings, the removing of jobs, the destroying of businesses of the minority communities, Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Sufis, Ahmadiyas. All of that is continuing non-stop. And there's nobody who's willing to raise a voice about it in the West because of the complete clampdown. This is not just Bangladesh. This is the global scenario which we have to understand. And in fact, what it is you're mentioning about the Arakan army, there's an active coordination. The Arakan army, across the border of Myanmar, Bangladesh, the presence of the American forces there, they're dealing with the Arakan army. It's a very complex situation, and I agree with General Dillon that government is keeping a very sharp eye on it and will realize and do whatever they have to do at the right time. But the point is that it is a very serious situation. As of yesterday, actually, the Army League's prosecutor has filed a case in the International Court of Justice, in the ICC, in the International Criminal Court, actually, presenting all these things, saying what's happening there, and saying that there is no justice within the country to get any of this out into the open. Awami League people are being killed right, left, and center. So I think one should actually push for free, fair, inclusive, and credible elections. This is the force that should be there with all the global support and India support. And also, there is no way that Mohammed Yunus can be the caretaker chief if the elections are held. There must be a new caretaker chief, which is always the practice. Mohammed Yunus has far outlived his presence. 90 days he was supposed to hold elections. He has not held elections. So now there should be a new caretaker chief. And once free, fair, and inclusive elections are held, whoever wins, the government, that will be with the support of the people, and it will be all right.
Right. General Dhillon, final word. So should we impress upon Donald Trump that the Nobel Peace Prize will come if the Nobel laureate no longer sits on the throne in Bangladesh?
Anand, I totally agree with the best of the point Ambassador Secretary, which she was referring to. We have internal fault lines in the Northeast. Let's be very clear about it and let's accept it.
Right.
Our internal fault lines are being exploited, including our democracy. The demographic change which is happening along the border, Bangladesh, and also in the interiors of India, is all courtesy of our political parties, some of them. And the other thing which I'm saying, every state in Northeast, like the point was being made about Lower Assam and Upper Assam. Lower Assam and Upper Assam have two different dimensions of how to look at it, the sensitivities, the security, and everything which we have. So someone who actually knows that area like a palm of his hand should be looking at that area. We cannot have, temporary people looking at this area. It's a very sensitive area from the demographic point of view, from the security point of view. We have the enemy who is lying Arunachal Pradesh. We have Myanmar, which is always unstable. And see, the two, you talked about Saint Martin and Pasni. The two important straits in this complete region. One is Strait of Hormuz, which is Persian Gulf, where the energy comes out, and Pasni sits right at the mouth of it. Second is the Malacca Strait, which joins the South China Sea with the Indian Ocean of the Bay of Bengal, and Andaman Nicobar Island and the Saint Martin. Saint Martin is an island which USA is eyeing so that it can control the traffic in the Malacca Strait region. And if Kara Canal comes up anytime in the future, which would be an alternate to Malacca Strait, and then Saint Martin Island will hold tremendous importance. So it's a long-term game. It's a very big game going on there. But we have to put our own house in order first. We need to control our own things first. And having done that, concurrently, we must make noise for restoration of democracy in our neighborhood.
I think
all platforms, starting with United Nations and all the internal and regional platforms.
2 days.
And the people of Bangladesh will also feel there is someone who is raising their voice.
General Saab, 2 nights here on the right stand. 2 various aspects that have been discussed, be it the US, be it AFPAC, or today on Bangladesh and the Northeast, and again the US's involvement here. The underlying sentiment has been Bharat has to amp up its diplomatic volume and diplomatic chorus and lobbying across the world to highlight these issues, to create pressures, and especially in places that matter. So be it via media, be it via diplomacy, this has to be upped. And that seems to be a critical aspect. I'm running out of time, but Dr. Ranganathan, yes, quickly, sir.
Thank you very much. I won't take much time. Actually, there is one question that's been troubling me, but then not to the extent that it should, because I'm not a diplomat. But since we've got the wonderful Veena ji out here and the good general, I'd like to, throw it out in the open, because I really want an answer to it. Now, look, The fact is, it's not that Bangladesh is the only dictatorship right now with we might be dealing with. In fact, half of the countries that we have excellent relationships with are dictatorships, and the other half, and many of them are emerging ones that we want great relations with. So I don't think dictatorship or democracy is the question. Afghanistan being the latest thing, we want good relations with Afghanistan. What I want to ask is, do you think our relations with Bangladesh would improve if we were to return Sheikh Hasina to the dictatorship of Bangladesh that wants it? And is the fact that we are not returning her, and my views are I don't want her to return there, but is the fact that we aren't returning her means that we are interfering in the internal affairs of another country? These are the two questions that trouble me.
Somebody who takes Sharan, you don't give that person up. So that is also a core culture of Bharat. So
exactly.
You don't push that person out to the wolves. So that's a core culture. On behalf of Ambassador Sikri and General Dhirar, I have taken the courage to answer that from my point of view. But yes, Ambassador Sikri, quick response. We'll wind up after
No,
that.
certainly. I fully agree with what you said, and I don't think that's the issue at all. It is just they are putting these cases against her. They're thirsting for her blood, as it were, because of all the cases that she did against the war criminals. And, she was absolutely correct and presented all the evidence, and the court cases were heard. So this is a revenge phenomenon. It makes no difference. I think she is going to be safe in India. I don't think there's any question of that. But I think that the role of the values that the Awami League represents, this is the important point in Bangladesh. That it is not just we're talking about the Liberation War represented a set of values. I'm not talking of political party here, but there are a lot of people beyond just the Awami League members who believe in those values. Whether it's democracy, secularism, national justice, and all that, and social, they believe in that. And I think their ability to express themselves must be there if the people want it, but they're being suppressed. So that is the whole issue. That is why the way out is to have
that many would say
elections.
Many would say not for long, and Saddam Hussein would know that also. But we'll save that for another day. Yes, General Dhilan, it's a very engaging conversation, but I'm pressed for time. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Anand, I totally agree with you and agree with the Ambassador Secretary. First of all, we have a culture of Atithi Devo Bhava. And Sheikh Hasina is our guest, and she has been a long-term ally. And talking at now international relations level and diplomacy level, leverages must be maintained by nations. And Sheikh Hasina is a big leverage when it comes to dealing with Bangladesh, whether her party is in power or her party is not in power. So nations must understand these things. And as a nation, if we have a leverage, we must encash on it and we must protect our interests.
Right. In the long-term history, by 2047, these 18 months to 2 years may be just a blip. So at that time, who behaved how and who helped whom, perhaps those memories will last, and that will stand Bharat in good stead. The problem with Sthita Prajna, or that is to hold restraint or to have a certain level of strategic, restraint, if I may use that word, is that it tests patience. And you have to hold till it is the time to give. Because if it is too early, it's ill-timed. If it is too late, it's again ill-timed. You just got to get it right. Let's hope Bharat gets it right. Professor Burman, I'm really over time. We will take this conversation forward very, very soon. I thank all our guests. Thank you very, very much. Dr. Ranganathan, please do stay on. We have another engaging conversation to coming up next. It's should the age of consent for sexual intercourse be lowered to 16? Or is there a very, very devious motive to this move that's been mooted in our courts? Stay with us.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Back in the national capital, big development on the cloud seeding front. A Cessna aircraft has now taken off from Kanpur for Meerut for the first such trial. The aircraft is expected to reach Meerut within the next hour, and according to sources, cloud seeding in the region is almost certain to take place today. My colleague Anshul Singh and Shrishti Chaudhary both joining us. Anshul, first give us the latest. Any update on whether the experts feel the conditions are apt today? Because it still depends on what the weather in Kanpur, Meerut and so on can be like.
Well, yes, the first issue that was being faced by the administration was that the visibility in Kanpur was not adequate for the Cessna aircraft to take off from there. But now what we are picking up latest by the way of sources is that the aircraft has in fact taken off from Kanpur and is now about to reach Meerut in the next few minutes. Once it reaches Meerut, then it will go ahead and try to seed clouds out here in the national capital. If I could just show you in the visuals over here as well, there is already a lot of clouds that have gathered over the national capital region. In fact, there are heavy rains that are being reported from places like Agra as well. But yes, the government will definitely try to make sure that they carry out this experiment of cloud seeding today itself. So within the next few hours, we can expect that the process of cloud seeding would start depending upon the condition of the clouds, because remember, more than 15% of moisture is required in these clouds so that cloud seeding could happen successfully. If at all there is a lot of moisture in the clouds, then this entire process could take somewhere around half an hour for the rains to come down after the clouds have been seeded. If at all the moisture content is a bit on the lower side, then it could take somewhere around 2 hours. What will be the exact locations where the cloud seeding will happen? That is something that the pilots and the experts would have to decide once they take that flight to with the purpose of seeding clouds out here in the national capital. So today, the government is very, very hopeful that they will be able to carry out this entire process of cloud seeding. When will that happen? What are the locations? That is something that that the government will have to figure out once that Cessna aircraft enters into the airspace of the national capital.
All right. Shrishti, what more are you learning? What are the kind of conditions that will be absolutely key for this trial to go ahead today?
Yes, Shivani. So see, it's a very difficult exercise because it depends highly on the weather conditions over Delhi. Now, initially, the IIT Kanpur team had earmarked an area in northwest Delhi, because the experiment cannot be performed over security installation. So they had selected some region over northwest Delhi, but the precise location for the artificial rain will depend exactly on the cloud formation. Now, as the India Meteorological Department had already predicted that there would be a western disturbance. So the western disturbance, which is like a tropical storm that brings rain, has already impacted northwest India. Yes. And there are parts of another region which are expecting rain, but we'll have to see once the aircraft actually enters the Delhi airspace, the wind conditions, the temperature, the cloud heights, the size of clouds, which will actually determine whether they can go ahead with the experiment. And I think viewers must understand that it's very difficult to really distinguish if it's a natural rain or an artificial rain. It's only when the experiment is completed that there will be a confirmation that it has been successfully completed. Also, it also depends upon the intensity of spraying, because the rainfall could be just in very trace amount. It could be 1 mm, 2 mm. This experiment is being performed to check if the air quality can be cleaned. So that depends upon really the intensity and the amount of rain that can happen. And this is actually for the first time that artificial rain is being performed or is being conducted to actually see if it can improve air quality of a region, and especially for the national capital, which suffers from a very bad air quality every winter. As for the latest update also, it's hovering, the AQI is hovering around 300, 305, which falls into the very poor category. So highly probable scenario, and we'll have to see how the experiment eventually goes.
The main aim is to kind of give relief from the very poor levels of pollution and particulate matter. In some places in Delhi and NCR, it actually feels worse than very poor. It could be very much in the severe category. But moving on.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Back in the national capital, big development on the cloud seeding front. A Cessna aircraft has now taken off from Kanpur for Meerut for the first such trial. The aircraft is expected to reach Meerut within the next hour, and according to sources, cloud seeding in the region is almost certain to take place today. My colleague Anshul Singh and Shrishti Chaudhary both joining us. Anshul, first give us the latest. Any update on whether the experts feel the conditions are apt today? Because it still depends on what the weather in Kanpur, Meerut and so on can be like.
Well, yes, the first issue that was being faced by the administration was that the visibility in Kanpur was not adequate for the Cessna aircraft to take off from there. But now.
A legal battle with enormous implications for Bharat's daughters has reached the doors of the Honorable Supreme Court, and beginning the 12th of November, the court will hear arguments regularly on whether the age of sexual consent should be reduced from 18 to 16. Now, the question is not merely legal, it is social, cultural, deeply personal, affecting nearly 250 million adolescents aged 10 to 19 in Bharat. Leading the demand for the change is senior advocate Indira Jaisingh, who claims the current age of consent is socially outdated. The centre, child rights bodies and several organizations, social organizations, have strongly pushed back. Let's try and go across to a renowned lawyer and also legal expert practicing in the Mumbai High Court, senior advocate Mrunalini Deshmukh ji is with us, Dr. Ranganathan also with us. But Mrunalini ji, namaste. Long time.
Namaste. Thank you for having me over.
Thank you for taking the right stand.
Thank you so much for having me over.
And a burning issue. Your thoughts on this age for consent?
If you ask me, I have mixed reactions to the same thing. From the point of view of age of consent, as far as consensual sexual relationship is concerned, to be reduced down to 18 could be considered as a very pragmatic or a very practical approach in today's times, especially when you see that children, even teenagers, are growing up. Their maturity levels are high. They have early puberties. In some of the cases, they also have exposure to a lot of these other countries where the age of consensual sex is maybe 16 or whatever their respective ages may be, and there is an awareness between them. So from that point of view, probably their right to life, if I were to consider, then that could be considered to be one of the valid reasons for it. Also because the age for the POCSO, as you are aware, where these child offences etc. take place, now even those things would probably come down to a large extent, or there could be less misuse of the same, is what I believe. But on the other hand, I believe that if 18 is the age when you enter into a contract, 18 is a year when you can get a driver's license, 18 above, say 21, 25, whatever is the age when you can consume alcohol, then why is there a need to bring only for the purposes of sexual interaction to the age of 16? So I am unable to see the connect, or I think there's a lot of disconnect between these two things. If you are expressly stating that only after the age of 18 you are wise enough to enter into a contract or sign a contract or get into these things, then how is it that you are wise enough not to do that at the age of 18 and have it at the age of 16? So I have mixed opinions and mixed feelings on that. Maybe a little bit of old school, if I may say myself to be, where I still believe that there is no need to bring about this kind of a thing only to cater to consensual sexual relations, though it may amount to attacking the right to life, the right to lead the way we want to do it, so long as it does not harm
but do
anyone. And of course,
you realize what
the
it could,
emphasis is on consensual.
But Mrunalini ji, do you realize what is the trigger point? What is this entry point to? Right to consensual sex at 16 means pregnancy at 16, possible pregnancy at 16, possible then bringing down the age for marriage to 16. Then, it just then is going back to all those practices which were first decried upon and said, oh, this is an assault to women and it's assault to society. So you're going back. And
Absolutely.
then
Absolutely.
those who are preying on
you.
young girls and those thought processes which believe that we should catch them young and breed them young, they then tend to become stronger. It just becomes an entry point to try and trigger all of this. That's another point of view. How do you view that?
No, I completely agree with you. In fact, if you see overseas, there are so many teenage pregnancies that are happening. And there are, I have been to a couple of hospitals, I happen to see there. Small babies are born which are hardly the size of your palm or even half of that. And some of them are, these kind of pregnancies are fatal for the women and things like that. So there first has to be I think more importantly than just jumping into the sex part of it, what is more important in these cases that one has to realize is that there has to be education which is to be imparted to these people to empower them not only physiologically but mentally, emotionally, to get into what is known as a sexual relationship with a person of the other sex or same sex, whatever the case may be. So I think unless that is inculcated, just jumping and giving this, I think, and again as I said, and pardon me, but a little bit of old school, if I may call myself, I am still not seeing what is the need for it and what is the urgency for it at this point of time to bring it down when the other factors that we are saying. And you are right, when we are talking about making this, and we as lawyers, we as legislators, we as lawmakers, we have fought to bring the age of marriage minimum for the 18 for the girl and 21 for the boys, and we are opposing child marriage restraint under the Child Marriage Restraint Act. We are opposing child marriages. Now when this is what has been our history, what is it that is just making it in 2025 this concept so I am really having mixed thoughts about it. And I think
can raging hormones be the justification, Dr. Ranganathan, to decriminalize an act against a youngster who's immature, or to try and give cover fire to those who may just prey on these individuals, given what's happening in society? Are they matured enough, ready enough for this? Your thoughts?
Thank you, Anand, and good evening to Mrinalini ji. I've heard her. Can I just say... Hi, good evening, ma'am. Can I just say that, when you started off by saying that this is not merely a legal issue, this is a cultural and social issue. Can I humbly disagree with you? It's none of the above. It's a scientific issue. It's a scientific issue that must be decided purely on how science sees this, because this concerns human health, and we cannot allow societies, customs or cultural policies to dictate how best human health is to be considered in matters of law. For example, and that is why I'm absolutely appalled by the stand and the advocacy professed by Indira Jaisingh ji. It's so unscientific and illogical, it is beyond measure and quite shocking, literally. I mean, the fact of the matter is, in America, situation is different. They see the law concerning abortion as cultural or social. No. In India, we are proud to say the fact that the abortion time limit has been changed purely on our information as we gain on what the science talks about it. Same goes for vaccination. Same goes for contraception. There are cultural and societal pressures to have no vaccination at all. You've seen in many Muslim societies, even in Kerala, there is an epidemic. There is polio resurgence because people don't want to get... Should we listen to society and culture, or should we listen to science? Similarly, the arguments given by Indira Jaisingh are preposterous. She says, for example, that the age of puberty is increasing. By that logic, if puberty is reached at 9, should we allow consent for sex at 9? The second thing she says, look, teenagers are having romantic relationships earlier. By that logic, if by consent children have sex at 10, should that be fine? Finally, most troubling, she says, the rise of POXO cases is because of the age of consent is higher. By that logic, should we legalize marijuana and cocaine use because we don't want prosecution on those subjects? No. The fact of the matter is that mentally and physically, the human body, especially that of the woman, is not prepared as much as it is at 18 as it is at 16. Right. And you have a lot of unwanted pregnancies, STDs, low condom use. That's just the physical aspect of it. The female body is not ready for it. But secondly, you have neurodevelopmental issues. You have the cortex, you have all those issues that are not prepared simply at 16 as they are at 18. So can we please deal with this scientifically, not culturally or as society or many other societies want to prefer? Well, the arguments will begin on the 12th of November. We are just setting up the grounds to try and get thoughts of people and to also bring it to their thing. What would they want? What viewers, have you thought about this? Wards, have you thought about this? And science, society, culture, and also the larger implications on Bharat itself. So all of these are something which have to be collectively considered, along with what could happen with our Nyaya Sanhita and those
predators who are waiting, just waiting for this to happen. So that's another aspect that we will talk about. But thank you for sparking this conversation and also engaging on this. Mrunalini, great to have you with us. A short but fantastic and very insightful. Look forward to many more engagements in the near future. Thank you so much. We're going to wind up this edition of The Right Stand as we leave you with pictures of the Chhath Puja celebrations across North India. This is the obeisance to the sun. Thank you for watching.
Co-presented. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Back in the national capital, big development on the cloud seeding front. A Cessna aircraft has now taken off from Kanpur for Meerut for the first such trial. The aircraft is expected to reach Meerut within the next hour, and according to sources, cloud seeding in the region is almost certain to take place today. My colleague Anshul Singh and Shrishti Chaudhary both joining us. Anshul, first give us the latest. Any update on whether the experts feel the conditions are apt today? Because it still depends on what the weather in Kanpur, Meerut and so on can be like.
Well, yes, the first issue that was being faced by the administration was that the visibility in Kanpur was not adequate for the Cessna aircraft to take off from there. But now what we are picking up latest by the way of sources is that the aircraft has in fact taken off from Kanpur and is now about to reach Meerut in the next few minutes. Once it reaches Meerut, then it will go ahead and try to seed clouds out here in the national capital. If I could just show you in the visuals over here as well, there is already a lot of clouds that have gathered over the national capital region. In fact, there are heavy rains that are being reported from places like Agra as well. But yes, the government will definitely try to make sure that they carry out this experiment of cloud seeding today itself. So within the next few hours, we can expect that the process of cloud seeding would start depending upon the condition of the clouds, because remember, more than 15% of moisture is required in these clouds so that cloud seeding could happen successfully. If at all there is a lot of moisture in the clouds, then this entire process could take somewhere around half an hour for the rains to come down after the clouds have been seeded. If at all the moisture content is a bit on the lower side, then it could take somewhere around 2 hours. What will be the exact locations where the cloud seeding will happen? That is something that the pilots and the experts would have to decide once they take that flight to with the purpose of seeding clouds out here in the national capital. So today, the government is very, very hopeful that they will be able to carry out this entire process of cloud seeding. When will that happen? What are the locations? That is something that the government will have to figure out once that Cessna aircraft enters into the airspace of the national capital.
All right. Shrishti, what more are you learning? What are the kind of conditions that will be absolutely key for this trial to go ahead today?
Yes, Shivani. So see, it's a very difficult exercise because it depends highly on the weather conditions over Delhi. Now, initially, the IIT Kanpur team had earmarked an area in northwest Delhi, because the experiment cannot be performed over security installation. So they had selected some region over northwest Delhi, but the precise location for the artificial rain will depend exactly on the cloud formation. Now, as the India Meteorological Department had already predicted that there would be a western disturbance. So the western disturbance, which is like a tropical storm that brings rain, has already impacted northwest India. Yes. And there are parts of another region which are expecting rain, but we'll have to see once the aircraft actually enters the Delhi airspace, the wind conditions, the temperature, the cloud heights, the size of clouds, which will actually determine whether they can go ahead with the experiment. And I think viewers must understand that it's very difficult to really distinguish if it's a natural rain or an artificial rain. It's only when the experiment is completed that there will be a confirmation that it has been successfully completed. Also, it also depends upon the intensity of spraying, because the rainfall could be just in very trace amounts. It could be 1 mm, 2 mm. This experiment is being performed to check if the air quality can be cleaned. So that depends upon really the intensity and the amount of rain that can happen. And this is actually for the first time that artificial rain is being performed or is being conducted to actually see if it can improve air quality of a region, and especially for the national capital, which suffers from a very bad air quality every winter. As for the latest update also, it's hovering, the AQI is hovering around 300, 305, which falls into the very poor category. So highly probable scenario, and we'll have to see how the experiment eventually goes.
The main aim is to kind of give relief from the very poor levels of pollution and particulate matter. In some places in Delhi and NCR, it actually feels worse than very poor. It could be very much in the severe category. But moving on.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Back in the national capital, big development on the cloud seeding front. A Cessna aircraft has now taken off from Kanpur for Meerut for the first such trial. The aircraft is expected to reach Meerut within the next hour, and according to sources, cloud seeding in the region is almost certain to take place today. My colleague Anshul Singh and Shrishti Chaudhary both joining us. Anshul, first give us the latest. Any update on whether the experts feel the conditions are apt today? Because it still depends on what the weather in Kanpur, Meerut and so on can be like.
Well, yes, the first issue that was being faced by the administration was that the visibility in Kanpur was not adequate for the Cessna aircraft to take off.
Good evening. You're watching Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. The Election Commission has given the go-ahead for a nationwide SIR, which will start from this month. 12 states will be part of SIR 2.0, which includes the poll-bound states of Bengal, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Now, all of these opposition rule states have said they will not implement this special intensive review. The Chief Election Commissioner says this is the constitutional obligation of the states and it has been upheld by the Supreme Court. But village officers, block officers, district officers, even the police are all part of the state government. And any special intensive review exercise cannot happen without these state government functionaries. So how can a pan-India SIR happen if the opposition India bloc, the India Alliance, deliberately attempts to derail it? But first, let's bring you up to speed with which is this phase 2, which are the states that are being covered and what specifically some of these opposition rule states are planning to do in opposition to the SIR exercise. Phase